Justice Jim Macken, formerly of the Arbitration Commission, was one of several speakers to address the 100-strong meeting about the legislation which he believes could destroy unionism. But he warned unions must alter dramatically to survive the rapidly changing face of work patterns. More people, particularly in the clerical, retail, building and even teaching professions, are opting for casual work, where they are not properly represented by unions. The unions say the legislation is based on enterprise agreements that threaten job security, wages, working conditions and the right to take industrial action. And it threatens centralised wage fixing, which is the nucleus of unionism. But Mr Macken warned that this was something unions may have to cater for. The meeting unanimously voted to support a local rally and to support a mass mobilisation on the 14th of next month. And they called on the state opposition to repeal the legislation upon its return to government. Later, opposition leader Bob Carr gave his commitment.
We'd repeal it. We see it as bad legislation, bad for employers, bad for the community, as well as bad for the workforce.
But he admitted this would depend on Labour's support in the upper house. Rebecca Skinner, NBN News.
BHP has been the major sponsor of Surfest since its inception in 1985, but this season there's been a change. Previously, BHP Steel made the financial commitment. That role has now passed to BHP's Rod and Bar division. A spokesperson for the division says its funding reserves are almost dry. Donations of $350,000 to the Lord Mayor's earthquake appeal and another $100,000 to the Quake concert have bled reserves. The word is that even if BHP can find the money, it will only be enough to stage a AA event rather than the familiar AAA carnival. Surfest organiser Nat Jeffrey says that won't save Surfest.
If it's anything less than AAA, because other events have been dropped here in Australia, I don't think the surfers are going to travel from overseas. The other thing is, of course, that if it's not AAA, it's not going to get the media coverage. If it doesn't get the media coverage, why are the sponsors there? It's a catch-22 situation.
Surfest is the last event on the Australian spring leg before pro surfers head to Hawaii. Association of Surfing Professionals spokesman Graham Cassidy is a familiar sight on Newcastle Beach. Speaking from Sydney today, he said BHP had until Friday to decide on its commitment. Then he leaves for America, where the association is drawing up the circuit calendar. He says the event is already within a 6-month confirmation deadline and international competitors need a decision to plan their travels. The loss of Surfest would be felt by those on the pro circuit who use the event to gather good points tallies before facing the unpredictable conditions of Hawaii. More disappointed will be the Surfest organisers, who say the loss of the event this season may sound its death knell.
I mean, we had a long, hard struggle to get it up to a AAA, and to have to start all over again, especially in this economic climate, no way, I don't think.
The seminar at Belmont was one of several called by the Parliamentary Committee on State Development, all part of a 12-month research campaign into growth along the New South Wales coastline. It was recognised that the area covering the Central Coast, Lake Macquarie and Newcastle, contained not only some of the country's most beautiful coastline, but also some controversial trouble spots and vocal residents groups. Today's aim was to identify the main issues and work out possible solutions.
It may well lead to changes of legislation. We'll be bringing down a report hopefully early next year, and from that report the government will then have to respond. The government's entitled to respond however they want, but I think from our past experience the government will be sympathetic because we have got some good results on the board up to date.
And it could even result in a single coastal ministry with all-embracing powers. Does that mean residents will have more of a say in the development of their coastal areas? I
would hope so. I think that's been the major area of conflict up to date, that the locals just haven't had the opportunity to present their case, and they've had the opportunity once plans have been announced, which is obviously too late. So hopefully in the future the process will allow locals to have a lot more input.
Residents may not be able to change existing development, though they have protested long and loudly in the past about tourist resorts, marinas, increased urbanisation and the degradation of our waterways. But having their say may well result in our untouched coastline remaining that way in the years to come.
And we want to ensure that what we've got left we must protect, and we must have sensible development, so that we're going to learn from what's happened overseas and we're going to make sure it doesn't happen here.
The State Coroner has recommended that the Australian Earthquake Code be revised for construction in Newcastle. If his suggestion is adopted, the city will be rezoned under the code, with subsequently stricter design and building requirements. It's worth noting that Newcastle Council has already introduced interim provisions for the design of quake-resistant buildings. So what will rezoning mean in dollars and cents? Norm Steep of the Master Builders Association predicts only a slight increase in building costs for new structures. Likewise, Newcastle University engineer Professor Robert Melchers.
The cost implications of extra earthquake requirements for those buildings is going to be very, very small indeed.
Professor Melchers coordinated the Newcastle earthquake study, which formed the basis of the coroner's recommendations for revised building codes. He says the study revealed the need for changes, but changes which won't see building costs skyrocket. It's now generally accepted that alluvial soil amplifies earthquake effects. As such, many buildings in Newcastle are more vulnerable. For this reason, the coroner has suggested that alluvial regions be subject to higher design requirements, Zone 1 under the Australian Earthquake Code. Even so, Professor Melchers anticipates little cost to the average householder.
I suspect the average householder is not going to be affected at all, except in the longer term if we have a special standard for domestic construction for earthquake conditions. But that's not a matter of urgency.
Even a light-hearted game of touch at the start of the final training session before Saturday's all-important clash with the Sea Eagles couldn't hide the seriousness with which this match is being taken. 1 point behind Manly in 6th spot, the Knights have a real chance of taking their place in the 5. Tonight, the finishing touches were applied.
Well, basically it's just reinforced what we've spoke about, some drills that we've done for the game, and basically it's just a cut and print session.
A little bit of nervous tension in the camp?
Oh no, the boys are pretty right.
For Captain Michael Hagan, this match is as close to a grand final that the Knights have played.
Obviously the fact that we've won our last few games has given us plenty of confidence, as with Manly. I suppose they're the other form side of the competition, so it should be a pretty interesting sort of old game.
Manly got their Kiwi internationals back, and also Ian Roberts. They're going to be a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, I think it probably suits us though to know that they're at full strength and we've got to lift ourselves to beat them.
While the players put the finishing touches to their preparation for the game against Manly, Knights officials were anxious to let everyone know that there will be 25,000 tickets available for spectators this coming Saturday. But for the Knights players themselves, the anticipation is enormous.
We're looking forward to the tussle against Manly, and they usually have a rough time here, but our forwards are firing at the moment and we're hoping that they'll get on top of them.
As we keep winning, the importance of each game gets bigger and bigger. So yeah, Sunday is a big game, and then obviously the Sunday after that's going to be just as big. But we'll take this one as it comes.
Mate, we're very confident. We know it's going to be a hard game. I mean, there's plenty at stake for both sides, so we'll be giving it our best anyway.
We've had a big week, and we're looking forward to the challenge on Saturday, and I think we can answer it.
I think everyone's looking forward to it. I think it's going to be the biggest crowd most blokes have played in front of, and I'm sure they're all looking forward to it.
Fresh fish is seen by many people as a health food, but the Hunter Water Board isn't so sure. Its latest survey, involving 3 species, 35 fish and 5 locations, has produced some baffling results. A red moong caught off Catherine Hill Bay was found to have a lead level almost 4 times that which is considered safe. Of the other 24 moong tested, including those from locations near ocean outfalls, only 2 exceeded the limit. Every fish caught exceeded the safe level for arsenic, but the process didn't distinguish between the toxic inorganic substance and the natural organic one. It's confusing even to the Water Board, which has established a task force to continue the investigation.
We've got a base set of data now from which to work from, and we need a task force bringing together a wide group of experts to make some sense of the numbers. It tells us some stories about our sewage system, which we will take on board, but the big issues about the general level of pollutants in the environment need to have a wider group look at it.
The board admits to being worried by the presence of heavy metals and organochlorines in the system, and anyone found polluting drains or sewers will face its wrath.
People caught dumping, they'll end up in court, heavy fines, their systems will be closed down. Those doing the right thing, trying to improve their game like the rest of us, of course will work very closely with those to improve things.
So where does it all leave the recreational anglers only interested in getting a line wet and eating the catch? Well, according to the board scientists, they're safe for the time being.
Patricia Cahill, who's only 17, has been distraught for much of today, comforted by an English lawyer arranged by the British consul. Karen Smith, who's 2 years older, has appeared much more composed during long interviews with the police. The police today showed the huge amount of 95% pure heroin the 2 girls allegedly had in their suitcases, over 67 pounds. The British consul said it's the first case we've had of a UK citizen carrying such a large quantity. Customs stopped the 2 girls late last night at Bangkok airport as they were about to board a KLM flight to Amsterdam. The police and customs were apparently acting on a tip-off, and they quickly found the heroin concealed in shampoo bottles and coffee and biscuit tins. Drug trafficking does carry the death penalty here in Thailand, and since 1985, at least 3 Westerners have been sentenced to death, but so far, none has been executed.
About 500 of more than 600 Amalgamated Metalworkers Union members employed by BHP in Newcastle met this morning to discuss workplace restructuring, which has been in progress for more than 2 years. Union leaders said implementation of the steel industry agreement is not to the members' satisfaction, and they supported a call for a 24-hour stop work. The bone of contention is BHP's proposal to classify employees along departmental lines rather than adopting a standard national and state accreditation system. The unions argue that BHP has implemented a scheme at its Port Kembla works but has taken a contrary stand at Newcastle's Rod and Bar division and at Whyalla. BHP counters by saying that all steel industry unions signed an agreement over the process in June last year and that award restructuring was vital to the industry. The matter is listed for hearing by the Industrial Commission on Monday, but union leader Dennis Nichols says members are prepared for a long campaign.
We will continue to take industrial action until this matter can be resolved. We are determined that we will not be fitted with departmental classification structures. The members are unanimous in that view, and they've resolved to undertake a campaign of industrial action to ensure that they'll be successful.
In a statement issued this afternoon, BHP said the strike over award restructuring was contrary to a recommendation from the Industrial Commission not to take industrial action.
The more research we do, it becomes clearer and clearer that people give up smoking very quickly. Their risk declines to that of non-smokers. And you can drop your risk by 20-30% very quickly by giving up smoking.
Cholesterol, is that still a problem?
Yes, it's probably the major factor, and that's a matter of fairly simple changes of diet that in fact most Australians are making anyway. There's a general trend to eating more fruit and vegetables, less big meat meals. All these things are steps in the right direction. It's just a matter of a little bit more of the same thing.
This is what the new device looks like. Slightly smaller than the traditional incandescent bulb we're all used to, but more importantly, it is longer lasting and far more energy efficient. The drawback is it's 20 times dearer than an ordinary globe, but could pay for itself in reduced electricity costs after 2 years. On hand to help Shortland Electricity launch the bulb was television personality and self-confessed energy groupie Jeff Watson of Beyond 2000. Jeff is used to explaining the latest technological changes to the masses. While the Shortland County Council is in the business of selling electricity, it also has a social conscience, feeling an obligation to the community to help reduce fossil fuel use where possible and promote cost savings for its customers. The old incandescent bulb might have been cheap to produce, but it does seem it is destined to go the way of the gas lamp and the candle. The compact fluoro now fits the new bill.
Yes, it's already been a sensation in Europe and in America. We're talking about something that's only been on the market a very short space of time. I think it really is the light globe of the 21st century.
Plenty of penalties early as referee Eddie Ward tried to keep the teams apart. Gordon put first points on the board for the Knights, and then David Mullane made one of the hits of the day. Boyd and Martin Bella came together for the fisticuff waltz, and then Tony Butterfield and David Hocking decided to get serious. Back to football, and Mark Glanville continued the pile-driving tactics for the Knights, but Manly hit back with a penalty to Ridge. The Sea Eagles looked dangerous as they spun the ball to the backs. But again an error by Manly, and Ashley Gordon posted another goal and the Knights led 4-2 at the break. The intensity increased with O'Connor levelling the scores, and then the game breaker from Stevie Fulmer. Manly weren't done, and Iro returned the tackles of the Knights. One last desperate effort by Manly which nearly came off. With that, Newcastle were able to hold out and grab the 2 points, leapfrogging Manly into the 5.
A computer software package known as MARVIN acts like a big brother to Year 9 and 10 students. MARVIN has been there and done it all before. The program identifies types of drinks and explains their effects on the body to individual weight, age and sex. The dangers of excess are highlighted.
What we're trying to do here is to let people know, before they have to face alcohol as an issue in their life, what the facts are about alcohol.
The program was evaluated at Queensland's Expo 88, where 40,000 people gave it a try. It's been adopted by the Hunter Area Health Service and was launched at San Clemente High. Newcastle Knights star Ashley Gordon was there to give it his support. But the best judges of its usefulness are the students. Have you seen the effects of alcohol on school friends and on people your own age?
Yep.
And do you think by using the MARVIN package some of that could be avoided?
Yeah, I think it could be.
Yeah, it's a really good package. It teaches about alcohol and the effects it has on young people.
Today, no less a light than the Federal Science and Technology Minister, Simon Crean, was called on to open the new 10,000 square metre factory on 17 hectares of the Taree City Council's Kolladong Industrial Estate. The plant provides work for 350 locals, making it the largest manufacturing employer between Newcastle and Brisbane. Britax Brylite turns over $20 million annually, supplying automotive electronic components, switches and light assemblies to 2,000 customers worldwide. But by far the biggest customers are Australia's 5 vehicle builders.
We negotiate with them in an endeavour to have that product removed from their import situation and sourced locally. It means that we have to compete internationally, and I think we've been very successful in doing that.
Britax Brylite isn't sitting on its hands either. Managing Director Ken Bryant is determined the company will not now stand still. He's planning further expansion beyond the 60% production growth of the past 12 months.
You have to keep pace. I mean, we're here now. Unless we continue to invest in the right sort of equipment and in the right people and pick the right product, we'll go by the wayside the same as a lot of others have.
That could mean 500 employees by 1992 and even 800 jobs in 5 years' time. The view was reinforced by the directors of the parent British company, BSG International, who flew in for today's opening.
We have a big investment here, and we want to make sure it pays the dividends to the parent company and pays for its investment. And we're also very keen that this company will expand in this area and add not only to the Australian car industry but also to the local Taree community.
The statistics broke down the 10 major crimes in the 7 police districts stretching from Chatswood to Lismore. In the most alarming finding, Newcastle was top of the list for muggings. In fact, take the figures practically and you're 4 times more likely to be assaulted and robbed walking the streets of Newcastle than in Lismore. At 16.78 offences per 100,000 people, there were twice as many muggings here last year than in the northern Sydney suburb of DY. However, this afternoon, Newcastle Police Superintendent Russ Cook was refusing to accept assault and robbery was a major problem for the city's police.
That's been an increase, but when you look at it, you find that there's been only an increase of 6 offences over the period of 12 months. And then when you go back and have another look at it, you find that the clear-up rate, and that's the arrested people, has increased from 25% to 40%, which means that you get a lot of offenders off the street and in jail.
Newcastle did fare better in the remaining crime groups. Offences such as sexual assault and car theft were all comparatively low. The murder rate too compared well at just 0.67 per 100,000. Only Port Macquarie and Gosford had a lower figure than that. Alarmingly, it was Maitland that topped the murder list, well ahead of DY and Chatswood. And according to Superintendent Cook, in overall terms, violent crime in Newcastle is well and truly on the way down.
And the overall drop in offences throughout the Newcastle district are 1,650, which is a fairly good drop. It works out at about 11% drop all over, which is a very high drop within the state of New South Wales.